And welcome back, everyone, to part 5, if I'm not mistaken. We're on part 5 of what if Midoriya had a quirk, the combination of his mother and father's quirk. Now, a couple house cleaning things to discuss real quick. I have seen that I was getting a discussion with someone earlier in the comments today, and luckily it didn't get out of hand because I didn't want to have a flame war in the comments. But I just want to approach the topic of how I handle Midoriya's quirk. Because the person was arguing that, yes, but that Midoriya's quirks should just be pyrokinesis. And while that's perfectly fine and very much an avenue I could have gone, I chose not to do that because just giving him pyrokinesis, A, first off, I can do that as another what if. That's not an issue. But B, I wanted to just try something different because his combination of his mom and dad's quirk should be something to do with telekinesis, sure, and something to do with fire. But the fact is, his dad's quirk is breathing fire. At least that's what his mom said. So I wanted to try to do something different. I wanted to try to do something that would already have a built-in limitation, which a lot of quirks kind of do. And because if I just make him pyrokinetic, I now have to figure out, okay, what's the limitation there? And that's difficult to say. The fact, too, is that he could only control the flames he controls, and it used to only be very small flames, hence the controlling small things. His body only produced small flames, and he's got to blow on his fingertips. Very, a lot of work just to do very little until he got the amp from One for All. So, now look, if this doesn't work for you, there'll always be other what-ifs we can do. But this is just the avenue I chose to go, and there's nothing wrong with the way I chose it. There's nothing wrong with the way you want to see it. It's just, this is the avenue we've gone. So I would just caution you not to treat things like fact that aren't fact. They're just opinion and personal choice. Also, and this is actually a little bit more important, I think. Someone, and they weren't complaining, they were just kind of making a noted observation, that nothing kind of has changed from the canon. There has been no major canon changes up until this point. Despite the fact Midoriya has a quirk, and now has a pretty powerful fire quirk, along with One for All, everything has kind of fallen into place the way it's supposed to. And that is true. At least there's been some minor changes, but nothing has ultimately changed the long term. Like, even if I change, say, the first training exercise they had where Bakugo and Midoriya duked it out, and Midoriya just straight out beat Bakugo, it actually wouldn't change much except for the fact Midoriya is fine. Because Midoriya, A, does not have a drastically different personality here, and B, his quirk, while powerful, actually is not useful in certain circumstances in the story. And I'll get to actually where it's not going to be useful in a little bit, because it's actually a very important thing about to happen later on. Because of that, certain things aren't going to aren't going to change in a way that's going to affect the grander story. Now, don't get me wrong. When we finally get to much later down the road, let's say someone was actually very nice enough to actually give me the names of the arcs of my hero. So give me 1 second here. I actually want to find who gave that and give him a proper shout out, because that's actually very useful to me for naming things. Come on, where'd you go? Where'd you run? Oh, DJM the King basically gave me the names of all like the arcs. Thanks for that, DJ. That's actually really, really helpful. For example, when we get to the joint training arc, Midoriya having a fire quirk is going to be very impactful, and being able to do more than just punch things and throw air gusts. Things like the paranormal liberation arc, the Dark Hero arc, all those, that's going to be very different because the context has changed. But for right now, the context hasn't changed enough, and his quirk just isn't powerful. Like, against Todoroki, while he's powerful, Todoroki's fire far exceeds Midoriya's right now. Also, the fact that Midoriya still actually can only produce so much fire at any given time. But regardless, there will eventually become changes. It just doesn't mean they're going to happen immediately. Last but not least, the other person that I was having the discussion with earlier today about the way his quirk worked. What's the actual thing? What's the actual thing the person said? I'm not trying to call you out. We were having a discussion And you basically said that, and just to clarify all the things you were pointing out, I now have an avenue to just very clearly and succinctly say it. You said Deku would not need one for all. He has a quirk. All Might would not choose him. He would choose Mirio. The stronger a one for all is, the less the user's lifespan will be if they have a already powerful quirk. Now for that is true. I believe I think I misheard you when I responded to that originally. Yeah, it's not about how strong the quirk is. It's simply the fact that the more that All for One evolves, the more of a burden it just has. Because the person who died of old age didn't have a very strong quirk. But that being said, Midoriya, in terms of the length of the story here, would not be suffering from the will not be suffering from the shortened lifespan very much, because in terms of the one for all, he's barely had one for all in terms of the story. He's had it for like up to a year. Now, if he keeps it by the end of the series, that's different. Midoriya probably in this version wouldn't make it past his like mid-30s, if he's lucky. But as for All Might not, I respond to this, but as for All Might not giving Midoriya a quirk and choosing Mirio already has a quirk. That's not that logic doesn't make any sense. And Midoriya would still be very much in the kind of cowardly way. No, I'm not trying to call you out, but it feels like you didn't watch my explanation in the first video. Like you didn't watch my first video in this series. I'm not saying you didn't, but you're arguing stuff I already explained in the first video. And you also said that he wouldn't be bullied because he has a quirk. No, Bakugo would still bully his ass. His quirk is relatively weak compared to some of the other kids in the class. Bakugo would still very much bully his ass. And then last but not least, you basically said about the pyrokinesis and all that. Okay, those are basically all the things I wanted to just bring up. I think I've talked enough. We're not 7 minutes. I had to do so much freaking explaining about shit. All right, let's just get on with it then. So we would cut to the training arc. Let me get that again, because it's not. I think it's called the training arc. What was it called again? I need to have these things up. I need to write these down. That's what I need to do. I need to write these things down. That way I know exactly, always have them on call, so I'll be able to just eventually commit them to memory. And where the hell are now? Where I just had there. Okay, Hero Killer arc. The forest training and the hideout raid. Okay, forest training arc. So we would catch up to the gang when the villains attack the UA students. Obviously, Muscular finds Koda, and Deku comes in, just, no! I know you! And so Deku tries to throw a punch. We know it doesn't work. Like, your quirk's nothing but a weaker version of mine! And just now, here's the thing about Muscular's quirk. His muscles are much more, he can manipulate his muscle strands and use them to increase his speed, durability, and strength. But I don't know about like nerve damage. We know someone like, and I can't remember the kid's name, but with the vibration quirk can actually disrupt his quirk with enough power. I'm wondering if getting hit by fire would be very detrimental to him. Midoriya even points out, I think your muscles are big, and he eventually gets caught with, he eventually gets his aim caught. But now, all of a sudden there's fire around his face, and Muscular's like, huh? You can't get away! Just punches him point blank in the face. Muscular has to basically hoist his muscles up to make sure he doesn't get his face incinerated. And he still gets blasted back. Midoriya's arms are basically just shredded at this point. But Muscular comes out. That was a lot of fire. That really hurt, kid. If you hit me in point blank, that might have actually done a lot of damage. I'm going to enjoy killing you. Right after I kill that kid. And he comes in. Come on! Midoriya's obviously struggling. And he's losing his grip. And obviously he's like, I can't wait to kill that kid. What? I'm not gonna let you hurt Koda! And instead, not just saying the 1,000,000%, but Midoriya does note, it's like, you've been paying so much attention to me, you weren't paying attention to your surroundings. It's like, what the heck, Fiend? All of a sudden he feels the heat. And what Midoriya did is he created so much fire that he still had a lot of it, hanging around the air. He just, and Muscular's like, no, let's smash! All for one! Burning smash! And just roasts him. Now, you might be saying, well, wouldn't he use his fire initially against Muscular? He would try, but remember, Midoriya literally came in there on the spur of the moment, and I think very quick, and Muscular's fast enough that I'm not sure he'd have enough time initially to just be like, throw fire at him. He'd have to get out of the way, and he'd probably end up breaking his arm pretty quick. Would he be in a better state here than he is in the original? I guess that's the big question. And because he probably did have fire tactics, he was manipulating flames to the best of his ability, I would say there is a chance he could do that. He'd be in better shape. But his arms would still be busted. I don't think there's any argument there because Muscular's body, excuse me, Muscular's body is still durable enough that he could still take a lot of hits, even from probably. We know that water hose or water spout, whatever his name is, Kota's parents, with just water were able to carve out his face, but it was like water pressure. Regardless, Midoriya, gets Kota out of there. It's like, I still got my legs. Runs off in the woods like, you had to use your quirk. I had no choice. It's like, fine, you're allowed to use your quirk now. Now, I do recall Midoriya showing up to save Bakugo, but the problem simply comes down to this when it comes to the Bakugo situation. Because of A, bit of a sleight of hand scenario from Mr. Compress, and B, Bakugo saying, don't come after me. It's difficult to say whether or not Midoriya would be able to do much here. Yes, his arms are kind of split out. Yes, he's been training enough that he could actually still reach his fingers and go, and basically just maybe throw some fire as best he can. But the problem is, with his arms in the splint, he can't actually move his arms. So basically, I imagine part of his telekinesis or pyrokinesis is moving his hands. He can still do it with his mind, but predominantly he can, use his hands for more effective movements. Without being able to use his hands, he kind of got to go swipe a little bit and just blast as best he could. Unfortunately, I still think he's not able to do much here. There's nothing in this scenario that would allow Midoriya that would change the hideout raid arc, basically All Might's rematch with One for All. There's nothing that would change that, unfortunately. And so we would actually catch up to the provisional license exam. And that's where we're going to actually end this episode, this part here. And maybe actually we'll go into Deku's fight with Bakugo after the fact. But the provisional licensing exam. Now, we would actually start initially with them creating their own moves. You're going to create your own moves. And Midoriya is thinking, I can use my fire a lot, but I don't know if I have any real specific moves. I've got a couple of them, like the fireballs he did as a kid, creating, flaming menagerie. I think, he's thinking about, but he's also thinking about trying to use One for All. Obviously, All Might says, you're still trying to imitate me. Knock it off. And so it's like, you have something beyond it. You have a quirk. Try to use that in combination with your fire. And I was like, with One for All. And obviously they meet Hatsume or re-meet Hatsume, and she shows off some she shows off some protect. He gets hurt. Ultimately, we would jump to the training again for the new moves. Midoriya's already got a couple under his belt. One in particular, going to be really fun to watch when dealing with some big heavies. But more to the point, Midoriya's fighting style. Now we know this is where he developed shoot style, but all One for All, flaming shoot, or not shoot style, but flaming sparrows. Oh, actually, flaming sparrow's not bad. Flaming sparrow style. And essentially, what he's done is he's constantly got like rings of fire around his legs and his arms, but he keeps them like kind of condensed. And one of the other things that they've probably done is reinforce the suit to actually be fireproof, or a lot more fire resistant. At any rate, almost like he's wearing a firefighter suit. So he's got these rings of fire that he's keeping constantly around. And so when he's attacking, the air, and he's spinning it and rotating it at such a velocity that it's not getting put out. So when he's attacking and fighting, he's got now flames basically, to block with, and he can launch a ring of fire, and basically from his suit he can manipulate said fire. And obviously from his fingers he can just add more fire onto him. If he really needs to, he can kind of do an Endeavor Human Torch thing, but it's only temporary. He knows he's not actually fireproof, but still, it's an avenue he can go down. Then the provisional license exam happens and the UA crush takes place. Now, originally, Midoriya, swipes his, kicks the balls away with just a gust of wind, or just his feet. He does get clipped initially by Toga, as he does in the original, but one of the other benefits about this quirk is in the fighting styles that he's got basically condensed fire around him, so he's actually keeping when the first target was hit, he immediately compensated, so when the next one comes in, and Toga, disguised as, I actually can't remember her name off the top of my head right now. I don't have the manga in front of me at this time. She is actually surprised when the ball actually just gets incinerated. It's like, not going to hit me, can't hit me, use the same trick on me twice. And he just fires off like a bit of fire. Just, it takes the form like, a bird. Just, it's like, oh my, you're so dangerous, Midoriya. But you're so interesting too. I really want to get to know you better. And obviously she turns into a Chaku. Deku calls her out. So you rescued me, and yet you're such a hot guy. No, I don't mean like that, but I don't not mean like that, Midoriya. I really want to get to know you better. It's like, what? No, Toga F's off. And so Deku, and the rest of them pass the exam. Now, the second part, the rescue part of the exam. This is an example of where his quirk can't play a factor. It's not a good quirk for this. Like his normal physical abilities are good, rescuing people, but his fire quirk, unless he's maybe burning some debris away, it's because fire has no mass. Just because he creates a flaming hand doesn't mean he can actually pick something up with it. He can't give fire mass to do that. So it's not a quirk that's useful here. Now, the one thing you can maybe aid in is when he goes to help against Gang Orca briefly and punches him in the face. Maybe he also kind of augments himself a little bit of a burst from his quirk, just boom, just punch. And maybe instead of Gang Orca, just boom, maybe he's pushed back a little bit. Gang Orca, by the way, that is an underrated hero we never saw enough of. Gang Orca's awesome. But ultimately, Deku passes, Bakugo fails, and this leads to, you sure made use of that borrowed quirk, didn't you? You sure made your quirk your own. And well, Bakugo, are you? I'm thinking about that guy, that head honcho, big boss guy at that hideout. He was about all for one. They seem to know each other, and that got me thinking. Your quirk, the strength of your quirk's a lot like All Might's. He's the one, you got your quirk from him, didn't you? It's like, well, no. It's just, what are you talking? Midoriya's trying to save face because he has a quirk here, so he can kind of try and say, your quirk was nothing when we were back in the academy, back in school, but suddenly it grew to exponential levels in Midoriya. It's because of All Might's quirk. It didn't just amp your physical ability, so it amped your actual quirk. I need to know right now. We're going to fight right now. And it's like, no, we don't have to do it. And Midoriya's just getting screwed over here. And finally, Bakugo just reveals, why am I the one who basically was the one who caused All Might to lose its strength because he blamed himself. That's ultimately what it came down to. He blamed himself for what happened. Also, his warped idea of what a hero is supposed to be. Because, let's not lie, Bakugo had a very bad idea of what it meant to be a hero. He just didn't seem to understand it. Now, obviously, he grew much better down the road, but still, he did not have a good interpretation of that. And so Midoriya just, and Midoriya just, he's got fire ready. He's getting ready, Bakugo, and they start duking it out. And Bakugo's like, I've been watching you for a while. You're not the only one who stays their opponents, Deku. I can put out you think I don't know I can put out your flames with my explosions? Come on! You're going to have to do better than that. And then all of a sudden, Midoriya's just got to condense the fire down. It's like, what? Now it's not as bad as, and he basically has it as a big fireball, kind of like what he did with Todoroki. But he's condensed energy, just kind of like launched it with a combination of one for all strength and it's just a thrust of telekinesis. That's pretty dangerous. Actually, I used the weakest version of it on you. It's like, what? You're still going easy on me? It's like, and all of a sudden, Midoriya just smacks into Bakugo, cracks him pretty well. And he's like, the shoot style, so I don't have to use my arms, but that doesn't mean I can't use my arms. And so, Midoriya is keeping Bakugo at bay using a combination of his fight style. The problem is he's not wearing his suit, so he's got to keep the rings a little farther apart. And so Bakugo and him, are clashing. Midoriya is just using as much strength as he can, but he doesn't want to kill Bakugo. He doesn't want to hurt him. And they clash. The difference here is that in the original, Bakugo got bested Midoriya. He did. Here, I actually think it's more of a draw. This is one of the first big changes because he was holding him down with his hand on his face like that. Here, he's trying to do that and he grabs him, but Midoriya just blasts him away and burns. And Bakugo's shirt's kind of just burnt, and Midoriya just. Unfortunately, Bakugo probably let off a small explosion, so Midoriya's got bleeding from his head. And he's like, all right, that's enough. And so All Might comes in and fixes the scenario, at least somewhat, for Bakugo and Midoriya. And ultimately, the reconciliations are there. This ultimately will lead us into the overhaul arc. We'll get to the overhaul arc when we get to it, because this is, I think, is going to be a spot where Midoriya's quirk maybe really helps him out a lot. But we'll get to that when we get to that. Until then, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you for the next one. Later.